Welcome back to Becoming a Published Author is Fun. And if you don't understand that, just check out episode 8 where I explain it. Today we're in episode 51. We're going to talk about special days. And the reason I'm selecting Memorial Day is this is Memorial Day that I'm recording this. But Memorial Day is not the only special day, but let's take a look here. Let's start this out with Memorial Day itself. Here's just a couple ideas that you can have for stories. Memories of veterans. Hardly a family exists in this country, I believe, that doesn't have a relative, father, son, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, somebody who is a veteran of serving in the military and perhaps serving in the war. If you have somebody like that, they probably have some stories to tell. And you could check with them, find out their stories. And if it's okay with them, you could use their story as it is told, using their name and everything. Or you can just use it as a spark plug, so to speak, a spark rather, for a story that would include their experience and so forth, but in a way that does not point to them. But in any case, it's a source of memories that you can use and build a story on. How about memories of your experience? Did you serve in the military? Some area of service? It doesn't matter whether you're in the front line or in the office, wherever. Did you serve? And if so, what was it in wartime, peacetime? What was going on in the world? What was going on with you? You could use all those experiences to tell a story. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of transparency here, is that I've never done this. But it is that because I haven't done it doesn't mean it doesn't work. It's just that my interest has been in history and looking back, and I've actually gone into biblical history. That has been my focus. But someday I might do that very thing because it is a very good way of coming up with a storyline. And there's all sorts of stories out there that you can tell. Now, I was in the Vietnam War. So there's stories that I still remember to this day that I tell people. They could be a foundation for a story in the future. It's an idea, and it's still there in my mind. So long as it's there, I have that option to use it to create something in the future. So this is something right here that just Memorial Day itself. Perhaps not even veterans or military experience. Perhaps you've been to a Memorial Day event, celebration, and it impacted you. Again, that's a story idea that you could develop and take it from there. But there are other days also besides Memorial Day. People. There are people in your life who have had an impact on your life. Well, think about them. Are they something that you could write about? Either if you could either write their story, or you could write a story using them as a inspiration for that story. Same thing with places you've been, places others that you know have been. Those are things in which you can write about and develop and turn them into something that is exciting. You do some research and you learn about it, even though you haven't been there. Now, it's best if you've been there, because once you've been there to that place, you have a more personal relationship with that place. And so, but there may be some places you haven't been that you can write about. It's just like writing about history. You read it and you study it and get as much information as you can so as you can personalize it to some extent. Events. I just kind of referred to when I said about going to Memorial Day events and stuff like that. there are events, historical events going on that have happened, and things of which that you can actually build a story around. You can have people that you know, maybe they attended an event you're thinking about, and so you can have a story there. There's just so many resources that you have as a writer, as an author, that you can dig into, tap into, and find out whether that is something that you really want to use, something that will inspire a book. Maybe you already have an idea for a book like that ink floating around in your mind. Well, start writing it down and see if it goes anywhere. There's many good stories out there that have been started just from a memory or a calendar event. I know one author, she puts out every month, she puts out different things that you can write about for that month. And I resource that every once in a while, just looking through it just to see what she's doing. And so that is something that you can do. So I talk about resources. And we have a list here: holidays, weddings. I was to a reception yesterday for a wedding that had taken place. I didn't get there until after the wedding, but I was there at the reception, and so that could be an inspiration for a story. I didn't really know the couple that got married. I've met them before, but didn't really know them. Now I know them, and we became friendly with one another and everything like that. Made a good contact, and so that's a friendship. It might be developing there. I've been to other weddings that perhaps sometimes it's been friends. I still remember to this day a wedding that I went to. I traveled all the way. I lived in Pontiac, Michigan. I traveled all the way up to the Upper Peninsula to go to the wedding of my best friend at that time. I went to his wedding, and it was a very positive experience. I enjoyed it. I was glad I went, and we had a little bit of time of fellowship, not much, but we had some time. And so that is something that's still in my mind, still fresh there, that I could someday use in a story. The thing is, I'm trying to get across is that there's a multitude of resources out there in your everyday life. Things that you've experienced, things that people around you have experienced. Maybe you've heard been third or fourth down the line, and you've heard a story about somebody. Well, if they're still alive, you might be able to go back to them and get it right from them and get a story. And you can build it different ways. It depends upon whether, if they don't want their names mentioned, you can do it without ever mentioning their name. Or you can do one that does involve their name. But the thing is, you have resources that you can use. Funerals. I've been to a lot of funerals. Every one of us probably has been to at least one. They're not necessarily the most joyful thing, unless you know that the person who passed away went to heaven. For instance, my wife. Now, in this case, I actually, through my church, I actually put it on. I selected the people who would testify. I selected the singers, and I was very much involved in that. That's a story in itself. But and then when it took place, and the church was pretty much packed, because many of them knew and loved Teresa. Well, the thing is, I could draw a story from that. Wouldn't have to be anybody's particular name. Wouldn't even have to be her name. Be her memorial service, but it can be a source of a story that I could tell. And now, as I mention it to you, maybe I will do that someday. But that's just another resource. And travel. My sister traveled to Europe and to the Mediterranean area there as well, and different places she went. She took a photo, I would call it a photo journey. She could put it, I don't know how she has it on her computer, But as an album, it's a story of the different places she went. And many times the pictures she took spoke for themselves. It didn't even need a caption. But then when she added her caption, that just made it that much uh, truer to me, something that I enjoyed that much more. And so the thing is that she created a story in pictures. Well, a story in pictures can be translated into actual words. And so when you do that, and these are just, again, just certain different things, holidays, weddings, funerals, travel, even work, where I work. I work at a resort. I've recently opened resort that is rather famous now, and people are, some people will ask me, well, what's it like to work there, Ron? And some people will tell me, oh, I'm planning on going there, and I encourage them. So the thing is that that's another thing from my own personal life that could someday work into a story. So when you're thinking about writing, you should have a notebook, maybe some 3x5 index cards, something like that, and write these ideas down. You have a multitude of ideas that's going to flow in your mind. And if your mind is anything like mine at all, sometimes it flows in this ear and comes right out that ear. And you end up, what was that I was thinking about? And if you, at my age, I sometimes have a hard time remembering what it was that I was thinking about. But it does eventually come back. Most of the time, not all the time. I've written things down and then lost the paper, and so I try to get them into. I have journals which I write into, and if I've written it on a sheet of paper or a napkin or something, I try to get it into that journal or on the computer, either way, so that it's there. May only be a kernel of a thought, but if you can record it somewhere, and then later on you're looking for something to do, something to write about, maybe you want to go a different direction, whatever, than you have been, then you have that information. So special days, don't just let them slide by. You may never write that story, but if you have it noted somewhere in some of the details, it becomes a resource that is available to you whether you use it or not. And that is something to be treasured. It is something that, as recently I was looking through some of stuff of my wife's, and I've come across ideas that she had. She's got page after page, both sides of the pages, of names of cities that are in the United States. Well, obviously she was thinking that she might use one. And just for the one that she did write, the novel she wrote, Keys to Murder. But the other thing that she was doing was actually, she was writing down a list of things that she could use in the future. That was a very smart move on her part. And actually now it's a resource that I have that she prepared and did all the work for. And so that is something that I strongly encourage you to do, something along that line. Write it down. Record it in a document on your computer or on your phone. I have a Samsung phone and they have Samsung Notes. You have some kind of thing like that in your phone, I'm sure, that your phone provides. And so put them in there. And now you have a record that a resource that you can get to at any time if you're just searching for ideas. And it's possible that your ideas that you have there, none of them work for you, but they get your juices going. And you start thinking, and then boom, that idea pops in. So the thing is, I'm just encouraging you to do is track those special days, special events, special people, whatever it is. Keep track of them. Have some kind of a record that you can resource and maybe it will lead to a story idea that you can embrace and follow through on it and get published. So that's it for today, and this is episode 51. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode.